moving to oneness. Nourishing curiosity. Embracing differences. Becoming one.
The most magical sight was up in the sky today. It was really dark sky. We set the hour back, and here in Germany it's the 31st of October. And it was the moon, an orange crescent, huge, humongous. And yeah, normally you see it on the sides, right? But it was like holding the moon. So the moon didn't need any weight. It was a beautiful feeling, and that's what was emanated out. It was holding something. It was an embrace. So you could let go. That's what I felt. And then this nourishing and comforting color of orange and this energy, it's similar to the pumpkins that you may see wherever you live. And some of them which are now carved out and are glowing, and because of the candles that have been put in them. Just beautiful. So with this energy, I want to welcome you to the Moving to Oneness podcast. I'm Meilin Ehlke, your host. Yeah, and the pumpkins are also so nourishing, right? Just by looking at them, the form, the color of orange or the yellowishness out in the landscape where we've lost, or the plants have lost the leaves, right? It's more barren, more brown tones, so they really pop out. But also in the foods, they're nourishing, comfort. It's a comfort food. It provides warmth, like in soups, right? Here in Germany, every restaurant has pumpkin soup, or pumpkin salad, or like a pumpkin pasta. And the list goes on and on and on, right? Or you can just bake it in the oven. Yeah. So you can notice I do like pumpkin. Maybe you as well. And yeah, so it's also the night into the All Saints Day here in Germany, the November 1st. In some of the states, here in the southern Germany, the state of Bavaria, where the Catholics is the ruling religion, it's a holiday eve where many people go and celebrate the connection to their ancestors. Even though it is All Saints Day, why we call it All Saints Day, by the Pope. Yeah, he decided who should be a saint and who not, and that is, in my belief, my vision, wrong. Every human being is a saint. It's full of sacredness, a beautiful being doing the best they are, or even, doesn't matter if the best or no best, there's no judgment. Shining our light, being who we are. That's it. This is beautiful, and that's enough of a reason to celebrate life. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about. Right? Halloween is a night that, as an American, I've experienced many celebratory and fun ways for children to go trick-or-treating, fun parties as a young woman, right? It's when you go out and have fun, get dressed up, slip in a different role, and experiencing, if you maybe put a wig on, right? You become someone else. In a way, it's a little bit shamanically. Not so much if you drink all the alcohol, but it doesn't matter. Whatever and how we celebrate, we have fun, we try out something new. And I like that. And when you go and celebrate, then also your ancestors, right? We make all these wreaths and bring them out to the burial grounds, the graveyards, that was what I was looking to. And it builds up a connection again. And I was thinking about that. I just recently saw a movie, right? So many of our written history has been burned. Whenever there was a conqueror or someone wanted to take over, the quickest way was to burn books, to steal books, to destroy libraries. We can go, back thousands of years, and we can see that this always took place. So what I thought about is, what is our history? What are the stories of our ancestors? What do we carry? What is their wisdom? Do you know that? And on top of it, I also have now my mother who has cancer, and I'm spending so much more time with her. And I'm very lucky, as a friend said, because she didn't have that, her mother was more a quiet one. My mom takes that opportunity to share her life stories with me. Some of them I experienced, right? I'm now in the 50s. But she goes back in detail and shows me her vision or her point of view, how she experienced certain moments and how she maybe came to Germany. I've spoken on the podcast, right, about her escape or about her childhood, about her thoughts, and now again anyway about sickness and even death, right? When cancer hits, you do start thinking about death. It brings a lot of fascinating conversation. And also the Halloween and All Saints is the time where we can converse and pull out those stories, not just of our own family, but also it is a hint toward our communities. Maybe you live also in a small town or a large city. What's your culture is all about. And it is really an invitation as we try to recollect, to remember, to highlight, to understand, right? Because it's hard to understand from a certain viewpoint and life experiences, people that have lived 50 years ago, what they experienced 100 years ago, 200 years, because the way of thinking, the way of acting was different. The food, the clothing, the textures, the social setting, how certain people played a role in life, right? Oppression, that's the word. The weather, people that were on the move, stationary, what kind of work, right? Very full of labor, tiring or more in with the head. So there's so many questions, and where did they all come from? And what is in your line? And what parts of that are you still living? So it throws up, in a way, for me, a lot of questions this year. And again, also, that we were speaking about the color orange, it also speaks about fires. And fires also has like two things about it. Fire is creation, ignition, a new start. But at the same time, it burns, transforms us. So many traditions, they put their dead people into the fire. Even some of the clothing in the fire, so anything that's connected with them, leaves our biological material world and can go into another form, right? And then also, how do we nowadays treat our dead? We're so quiet about death. There were so many other traditions that celebrated more, and it is a way to bring people back together and bring up stories. Or there's a culture somewhere in Asia, Indonesia, they keep their dead people close to their house. They don't even hide them under the ground, or they don't burn them. They keep them for a long time. Then what was so interesting, I saw this one movie, so if you do burn some people, and what if they have a higher state, I don't even want to use that word higher, because again, there's nothing high. No one is higher or lower and on a pedestal. But maybe had more the role of wisdom keepers. I had a knowledge when they were burned that their eyes, there was some of the lamas, right? They could pull their eyes, the heart, and I think it was the throat closer together. So it was like a clump after the fire. So what traditions did we lose? How we can prepare for death? Some cultures, people just go away. If I remember many of my cats in my life, and I'm so close with cats, they left when they were older. You would find them somewhere asleep, or they put themselves in a pasture and just exhale. So there comes the question, do we live in a way, do I live in a way, do you live in a way where you can exhale right now and you don't feel like you've wasted something or you were not able to have lived something, right? How content are you? Or then came up, God, I've been thinking a lot. Maybe the driving in the dark is not such a good idea. But then what came also, there's so much talk nowadays in telling the story or our story on being authentic for business. But we don't speak enough about telling our story or listening to the stories of our living ones, of our elderlies, or even of our younger ones, of the young children, and take the time to listen to their experiences and learn from them and to contemplate on them and to just have fun and enjoy and celebrate the moment that they did experience or what fascinating thing they have learned, right? This fascination of living, to celebrate that. And in these stories, I invite you, share your story with your children. Tell them a little bit more. And I remember also my husband was surprised that my dad shared so many of his stories or the stories of his dad or his grandpa that he had experienced. And where his father was more a quiet one, internal, or had never learned to share or thought it was not important, his life enough to share with his children. Or maybe that he thought they don't understand. And how often do we think the other person doesn't understand? Do we give them a chance to understand? Maybe they don't understand. How can we teach another person? How can I teach another person? How can you teach another person to understand you better, that I'm understood better? What do I understand about my own vocabulary? Or maybe this is also an invitation, right? When we're not so outside so much anymore, it's the nights are getting longer, to sit down and write your story down. There was a beautiful thing I remember I read a long time ago by Anastasia, her books by this Russian woman that lived in the forest. She invited people to bind in leather, so it holds a long time, a book, and write your family history down. Write your family story or your life and what you remember, or maybe where did you come from? Who are your parents? Too often we don't know anymore, right? Many of us maybe had parents that got lost in a war, and still nowadays people had to escape or are still escaping their regimes. So they leave everything behind. So again, then the spoken word becomes so important. And maybe some of you can hear now my cat breathing strongly, but I'm so happy finally. He was so uncomfortable all day long. Now he fell asleep in the middle of the podcast. It must be my voice. I hope you don't fall asleep as you're listening, but I do hope I'm comforting you a little bit, because it is really being more comfortable with our life and all of our facets, not just the facets of living and showing them to the world, but also being nourished by our family, by our ancestors, knowing that you're not alone, that in spirit they're all here for you, they have information. So, some say, oh, if you look more at the Celtics, this was also a time for the Celts to celebrate the change. The year started normally in the fall, right? So it was the beginning of the year. And it's a new start. So how do you want to start also this a new year? By seeing how important your life is. And everyone who walked before you on this earth. And in your family. And if you're one of those star nations, this is maybe your first life right here now. But still our biological material carries information. And look at that information. Some may have a little trauma that is still within you, and by conversing and seeing what gifts or going into communication, building up this relationship, that's really all about communication and relationship, right at the end. First with myself, you with yourself, we with ourselves, and then we as a community, and then also to the living, to the animals, to nature, but also to the deceased, or up into the cosmos, right? That there it becomes more wholesome, that it is more round, because it feels so comfortable, right? When it's all rounded off, if it's an impeccable act, if it has a beginning and an end and a closure, and those ancestors' lines are long, and they're here for you to support you. I have to do a class. I will do a class connecting you more if you desire, need support, or just want to play and celebrate it. This connection to our ancestors. Because also over the last 1,000 years, many of our cultures, we have been pulled apart. I've spoken a lot about here where I come from. So much was destroyed on purpose, our communities destroyed. War, that's one of the main reasons, right? You destroy communities to weaken your opponent. But I say, let's concentrate on the positive. Let's say, okay, it was, become aware of it, acknowledge it, and let's change it. Let's do it with fun too, and with dignity, and with a comfort and a loving heart, and bringing light to everything, to lighten that up and see, I'm being held by so many, like the crescent was holding this huge moon. But it was holding in a way itself, because it was only holding part of it. Part was lit, but that was enough for me to imagine the whole circular moon, and then even the three-dimensional moon. Yeah? This is so amazing, and feeling that energy of the moon. And the part I saw, the orange part, and the part I didn't see. And this is what is right now the energies are about. It's not just this 1 or 2 days. It's really just gives you like an ignition point, right? A start, an awareness day. But let's pull out the jewels, the richness, I like that, the richness of the information. Nalalia no What a beautiful duet. It's logic. That is a duet, right? In a biological form, we have a mother's lineage and a father's lineage. And you're held by your both. And you carry both. And you do it so beautifully, as the moon does. Right? This interplay of the sun and the moon. I leave you be. I hope you had a little inspiration of thinking a little bit about you, your family, and building up a new depth, a nourishing depth in your relationships to anyone, to anything. I'm Meilin, your host of the Moving to Oneness podcast. Bye-bye.